Everybody, it's been a little bit, but here we have two power systems to look at today. You're looking at one, the other is actually still down on the floor. We'll get to it in a moment. We're going to start out with this ASUS machine. Yes, an ASUS desktop. Normally when you think ASUS, you think motherboards, laptops, smartphones, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they make desktops too, and usually they're dang good ones. The Computer Works store, the Grid store, they now have a new labeling system. Instead of the printout labels that they handwrite stuff on, they actually print out special labels for each machine. With the price right there, we can easily see it. The CPU, the RAM, and the date. I'd say that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So yeah, $20 for this machine. Athlon 2, dual core, 2.8 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM. Yeah, I'd say they've gotten pretty reasonable with their prices as of recent. So, let's have a look at the back. This is a Windows 7 machine. We have a PS2 keyboard or mouse. Looks like it's just for a keyboard since it's purple. 2 USB 2 ports. Optic out. HDMI. DVI. VGA. Yeah, you could probably run up to 3 monitors on this motherboard with its onboard graphics if you could. Not as certain on that, but 4 more USB 2s. Yeah, these are all USB 2.0. No USB 3, unfortunately. Yeah, they look to be all USB 2. Got a presumably gigabit LAN. Pretty nice analog audio here. Power supply, not sure who makes it this yet. Again, it's not normal for me to get ASUS machines in, so I'm kind of interested to see what motherboard we have in there. Obviously, yes, it's an ASUS motherboard. If you didn't figure that one out yet. Let's go and crack this machine up and have a look inside. Okay, let's go ahead and crack this machine up and have a look inside. Pretty nice in here. Power supply and all. I'm very impressed. Set this down where you can easily see inside. It's definitely been a while since I've seen an active power supply. Last time I seen an active power supply was probably 2006 or 2007. One of them years. Seen it in a computer that was probably made in the late 90s. Yeah, they were pretty common in machines in the late 90s and early 2000s. You don't see them nearly as much, but they're a decent OEM. Although this ain't the greatest power supply, at least in regards to today's specs, it is pretty decent. Passive power factor correction. It is a little, let's say, actually no. It has two 12-volt rails, 15 amps apiece. 18 amps on the 5-volt rail. 14 amps on the 3.3 volt rail, 2.5 amps for the 5 volt standby. This is a 330 watt power supply. Not an 80 plus unit, but not a bad unit either. Heck, I may have to crack this open in a different video because I am parting this machine out. It has, let's see, of course, a SATA DVD burner. Up here we have a card reader, which I might be able to reuse for something else. I don't know for sure. But here's our motherboard. Obviously an ASUS motherboard. Now, the thing about ASUS, I'm wondering, is if they slap retail boards into their desktops, or if it's sort of like a stripped down OEM variant. It does have SATA RAID. And does seem to have pretty decent on-board graphics. I wonder if a board like this would have overclocking capabilities built into it or not. Not really sure. We'll definitely have to poke into BIOS and have a look. So we'll get this thing plugged in and start it up and see what we have. provided it works. That's the interesting thing, because at the computer store, the test station, I tried both these computers out. Neither of them produced video. However, I think it was actually the monitor, because when you press like numlock on the keyboard, the LED would turn on and off and it would respond. And when I pressed the power button on the machine, it would just turn right off. There was no delay, which generally means that the system did in fact get past post. So my plans for this, if it works, you know, it's been quite a few years now since you may have seen the Cube Computer TV box. Yeah, my Windows Media Center set-top box PC. Yeah, it's buried behind all that stuff back there. I'm possibly thinking about getting cable TV, although I don't really watch TV that much. But considering Spectrum is offering a pretty decent package for TV and internet for a pretty reasonable price, I might just go for it. It'll be for at least a year, maybe longer than a year if they keep the prices reasonable. Which, Spectrum, I'm going to have a video about them here pretty soon. Because one thing I've been wanting to do is a video about Spectrum versus Time Warner Cable, how things were. Because there are some things about the two that are drastically different that I do and don't like. Let's just put it that way. Let's get this laptop out of the way. So that way we'll have easy access to the keyboard. Okay, let's see what this thing is capable of doing. It does in fact work. Here we are in the BIOS. So this is the main BIOS screen, where you have your date and time, and your drives, your SATA configuration. And what's nice here is you can, like my old ASRock board, the 890FX Deluxe 4, SATA port 4. Let's see, hang on. You can you can configure certain ports to behave as either IDE. Actually, with this one, that's interesting. Hang on. Set this to RAID, see what happens. Okay. You can configure port 5 and port 6 to be independent. Let's say be IDE instead of RAID if you have ports 1 through 4 set as RAID. It's nice for compatibility. And in the cases where you want to have certain drives off the RAID controller altogether. Pretty nice there. Here's our system information. BIOS is from 2010. Have 4 gigs of RAM. A little under, let's see, 3840 megabytes available after the graphics. So yeah, not bad here. Go to advanced. See, CPU configuration. I don't think we're going to have any overclocking options here. Here's where you can configure your graphics, including the HDMI audio. More on-board devices. We'll set that to yes. USB options. Power settings. There's our hardware monitor. It's just funny. You can actually ignore it. And you can, of course, enable or disable smart fan function there. Anti-surge support. If enabled, system will have undervoltage protection or overvoltage protect function. I've heard of anti-surge a few times. No, I don't want to exit. And simple, your boot device priority, your boot settings. So yeah, let's see what we have here. Yep, we do not have overclocking function on this, which is to be expected. It's even though it's an ASUS branded machine, it's still a name brand computer like, let's say, an HP or Dell. However, I would say this is definitely better than what you would get from, let's say, an HP or Dell, by far. The board itself is, I mean, pretty decent. For what I have planned for it, it'll be perfect, actually. The CPU is, it's just a simple dual-core processor. The motherboard's graphics, not sure if they are HDCP compliant or not, which is a definite need for Windows Media Center with digital cable. But I could always put in a graphics card. Now let's go and have a look inside this thing. I want to show you something else. So yes, although the motherboard does not have overclocking functionality, it does have quite a bit of I/O on it. It has 6 AF ports, so that's plenty for a machine like this. This motherboard would be a good fit for one of those Acer cases that I have with all the tool-free drive bays, where you can actually put 4 hard drives in the thing, along with your 2 optical drives and so on and so forth. The thing offers enough expansion for that. However, here's what I was wanting to focus on: is this case is not proprietary at all, from what I'm seeing. You could easily, let's say, if you wanted to upgrade this computer to something brand new with enthusiast grade equipment, retail components, this is perfectly capable of doing as such. Now, what's interesting is this case. The front panel is kind of like the Acer machine. Now, I think it's about the same as that, or really similar to it. I think you have your power on here as well, but I think someone may have an indicator for Ethernet. Don't know for sure. I was just wondering about the extra pinouts on here. But what's interesting is, it's like this motherboard. The pinout is not standard. I'm going to shut this off. We'll have a closer look. Let this thing discharge itself. Okay, let's have a look at this header. Now, there's one thing that really has me stunned is why in the world would ASUS have this weird pinout on their motherboard? And that don't make any sense. Now, they do actually label what everything is for. So you have ID LED, power LED up top, power switch over here, and reset over there, and speaker over here. It's been a while since I've seen a motherboard that didn't follow the standard pinout of your front panel headers. However, what's interesting is with this case, as I mentioned, if you wanted to upgrade this computer with new components, like a new motherboard, it'd be easily possible, because although the motherboard that's in here follows a different pinout, this header, interestingly enough, has an alternate connector that follows a standard pinout. So it's like, why would they bother using some random pinout like this? It's really interesting. It's been a while since I've seen a motherboard like that. So that's going to be a little bit interesting. What I may do is, since I'm planning on dropping this into the TV box, I'm going to see if I can follow this header wherever it goes up to here, and see if I can salvage parts or not. That might be a little interesting. Yeah, that's the only thing I have to say shame on you, ASUS, about is why would they actually do that? That don't make any sense. Okay, now for the second part system. We'll come back to the ASUS machine in a moment, so that way we can do some more investigation on it. Here's what $10 will get you at the computer store these days. This is an older Compaq system from probably 2008, I would guess. $10 is all I paid for it. Pentium 2 GHz, 2 gigs of RAM, DDR2. And of course, there's the date that it was priced. Now, this one here I do plan to refurbish. Matter of fact, I already have a client this will be going to, because their computer that they currently have is just not that great, and they're definitely in need of an upgrade. And this here, for what they use the machine for, will be perfect. It was formerly a Presario SR5350F. Looks like it was actually in for. Looks like it was already sold at one point as a refurbished computer. As I see, there's a Windows 7 for refurbished PCs COA on the side. So let's have a look inside this one, see what we have. Again, just your basic components. Older Intel setup from probably 2008 or so. It has 2 DDR2 slots available. Just drop in another gig or two of RAM and you have your 3 or 4 gigs of RAM. So not too bad there for a basic machine. And they actually did leave the hard drive cage in. That's nice. There have been times before where they would take it out and you'd be so much screwed. Power supply is a Bestech ATX 28012Z. It's amazing how long HP and Compaq have been using this power supply model. I mean, it's crazy. Look here, they had to use 2 SATA adapters to make this thing compatible with this computer. It's unreal. 2 SATA adapters. One for the CD drive and one for the hard drive. Just to give you an idea, that HP system down there on the floor, this flashlight's getting really low. Pavilion Magnesium Gray Edition P6654Y PC from 2011, I do think, yeah, because of the Norton. This computer with a Athlon 2 630 quad core, 4 gigs of DDR3 and such, also has a Bestech ATX 28012Z power supply. Can you believe that? So you had the same power supply I was powering, let's say, Pentium 4s and Celerons from way back in the day. It's still being used, or at least was being used up through 2011, 2012 to power much newer hardware. And requiring adapters to do as such. Crazy, isn't it? Okay, let's go ahead and see if this thing works. Oh, and as this is a pretty basic end machine compared to the ASUS, ports are much less populated back here. There's not near as many. However, they do throw in a card reader up front and a LightScribe DVD burner, so for a Windows Vista computer, I guess it wasn't too bad. There's the original specs. And how much? Yeah, of course, 2 gigs of RAM, which is not really enough for Vista, unless, well, if you're running the 32-bit flavor, it wasn't as bad, but with Vista, you need at least 3 gigs of RAM. And Vista was generally more resource intensive than freaking Windows 7. And plug in and see what I can do. I just need to cover off the side for now. Alright, let's see what this in here can do. I don't even know what freaking key we're supposed to use to get in the setup, but anyways, we're there. So, 2 gigs of RAM. BIOS is dated late 2007, so this is probably a 2008 computer. Quick run through of the advanced. Intel Pentium dual core CPU, E2180, 2 GHz. You have the BIOS, and this is even more basic end than what was on the ASUS board. Nothing too special here. So it looks like it works just fine. Not bad for $10, I think. Just throw a hard drive and some extra RAM in there, install Windows, and have a pretty nice computer for somebody who just does basic stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into this ASUS machine a little bit further. See if I can figure some things out here. Okay, so it's rather interesting how the LED and power button up front work. Kind of different, I think. Let's get this card reader out of the way for starters. Get you a better view of what I'm doing here. I need to magnetize this screwdriver. And yeah, let's get this cartridge out of the way. Now this case, as I mentioned, I'm just going to be parting it out, so if I break something, oh well. This case is kind of cheap in, and it's pretty much broken by the time I got it, so no real sense in trying to fix it up. Not want to have some of the other cases laying around as it is. Okay, it's going to get the optical drive out. There's more on the other side, so I got to take this other panel off. I'm not saying this case is bad, it's just a bit cheap in, I think. That's filthy. What it is got to get access to all these cables, which they did a good job with cable management here. Got everything nice and tucked away. All that good stuff. Let's bend that out of the way since we're using this case anymore. See, I tell you, I'll be honest. I wish I had this thing here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. Yeah, I wish I had this here before I built the Plexi. Because look, has all the, well, that USB port there is broken, so I don't know. Has USBs. Oh, two broken USB ports. I take that back then. Forget about that then. Well, at least my idea was you had 4 USB 2 ports, audio jacks, card reader, all right there built in. This whole thing just comes out as a whole assembly. Now the power, LED, and button are on a separate pigtail. So let's get this out of the way. I'm afraid since all these are all together, I'm not going to really be able to reuse them. Really reuse the card reader, I think. At least all the cables in here can be unplugged and reused for other things. So that's not too bad, I think. More dust bunnies everywhere. Figures I just vacuumed the room today. Let's get this thing out of here. Have a look at it. So then we have the LED and of course the power button, which brings up the question, where is the hard drive activity? Oh, that's right, this thing's so blasted. Well, no, I can't say it's so blasted cheap, but you know, a lot of computers, a lot of newer computers don't have the hard drive activity LED built into them anymore. It's a shame. Yeah, the motherboard has a header for it, but at least I think. Wait, does it? Yeah, it does. ID LED. And that's right, it's not not being used by anything. Okay. So that's the only gripe I have about this motherboard is the fact that the friggin' header is not standard. So I'm going to have to. I have a couple of choices here. It will probably be easier. It wouldn't be too difficult actually to just migrate the wires over from on the TV box case. Migrate the wires from the existing plug over to this one. That's still a shame I'm having to do that particularly on an ASUS machine. I would have expected better. I mean, you expect proprietary crap from Dell, Compaq, HP, and them, not ASUS. Come on. But, anyways, then we end the video here for the ASUS machine. Of course, I'll be pulling the motherboard out and installing it into the TV box tower. Well, not tower, but case. And that Goodwill power supply, I think I'll probably be doing a video on it sometime later on. Just crack it up and have a look inside, just to see how the quality of Goodwill is these days. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, I sure hope you guys enjoyed this video from Q Computer Channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe to Computer Channel for more updates, and remember to tick the bell so that we actually get notified of these updates. Did you know that I am also on a second channel that's CubeComp MTDX? Over there you'll find videos of bicycling, weather, elevators, and all sorts of other neat and interesting stuff. Feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. And again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.